went down with an injury today at training camp for the Miami Dolphins. And right now, we don't know the extent of Jalen Ramsey's injury, how severe it's going to be. He's currently getting MRIs on it as we speak, but it was not sounding good according to some of these reports. So Cameron Wolf of NFL Network, he reported earlier today that Dolphins cornerback Jalen Ramsey was carted back into the locker room after a practice injury. Trainers were attending to his left knee. He grabbed his left knee after defending Tyreek Hill on a pass play. Trainers evaluated him for a bit on the sideline. Then he hobbled on the cart. He then also said that Jalen Ramsey's apparent injury happened near the end of practice. He attempted to stay on the field initially, the incomplete pass, but after feeling his left knee for a bit, he headed to the sidelines to be looked at by the Dolphins trainers. Dolphins safety Javon Holland said they are worried about Jalen Ramsey, but they didn't know any details and they don't want to speculate. Holland said he dapped up Ramsey and they talked for a bit. They are waiting to find out what's going to happen with Jalen Ramsey's injury. And this is really, really concerning if you are a fan of the Miami Dolphins, and just if you're an NFL fan in general, because you never want to see a star player go down with an injury, especially if it's on the team that you root for. And the Dolphins, what do they have at cornerback that can allow them to survive this season if the worst case comes? And that is Jalen Ramsey being unable to go for this season. Now, we're not going to speculate, but we do have to talk about, the potential outcomes. What's going to happen for the Miami Dolphins if Jalen Ramsey isn't able to play this season? Are you going to throw Cam Smith up there? Cam Smith, he was drafted by the Dolphins in this past year's NFL draft out of South Carolina, and I think he's a really good cornerback. As a matter of fact, I had a round 2 grade on him. And if the Dolphins have to start him, because let's say the worst case scenario happens, Jalen Ramsey has to miss some time, even worst case the rest of the year, Cam Smith, he can come in and can produce at a pretty solid level for the Miami Dolphins as a rookie. Now, of course, if Cam Smith has to start in replace of Jalen Ramsey, you're not going to get the same caliber of play from him that you would have gotten from Jalen Ramsey. But for a guy like Cam Smith, being able to come in and play well as a rookie in Vic Fangio's system, I think would be really impressive, considering the magnitude of the situation and the expectations that people have for this Miami Dolphins defense entering this season. Now, let's say Jalen Ramsey is able to get great news and he ends up being able to return from this injury, then the Miami Dolphins, as long as they continue to not deal with injuries, should be able to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender this year. This is not a dark horse Super Bowl team. This is not a sleeper pick. This is a team that has the capability of being able to beat Kansas City on the road in Arrowhead if they have to do it, and they can also beat any other team in this conference. They arguably have the most talented team going into the NFL this season. And for Jalen Ramsey, going down with this injury is a major blow to the Dolphins' Super Bowl aspirations if he does end up missing significant time. And there's a lot of concern about this. When you talk to Dolphins players, they don't want to speculate, but most of them are kind of starting to think the worst. And like I said, we're not saying that Jalen Ramsey is going to miss a lot of time, but we're also are going to have to speculate what are going to be the Dolphins' next moves if the worst news comes out about this. And if the worst news comes out that Jalen Ramsey is going to miss significant time or he's going to miss the whole entire season, then we have to know who's going to be the guy potentially replacing him. And I think it's going to be Cam Smith. I don't think we're going to see Noah Igbenogany out there. I think it would be really crazy to see him starting in replace of Jalen Ramsey, considering how he played last year. If the Dolphins aren't comfortable with Cam Smith potentially having to replace Jalen Ramsey, I expect them to hit the free agency market pretty fast to find a replacement if they don't have confidence in Cam Smith being able to come in and produce as a rookie, because Noah Igbenogany is a liability out there if you got to start him as one of your outside cornerbacks. So right now, according to the news that's coming out at this moment, there are no further updates on Jalen Ramsey's injury. The last reports that we have about Jalen Ramsey and his injury status have been that he's under evaluation. They're taking x-rays, MRIs on his left knee to see what's going to be the outcome for this. Is he going to miss any time that's going to be significant? Is he going to miss any time at all? Is it just one of those injuries that he'll end up bouncing back from in a couple of days? And then, if the Dolphins do get the worst news, I think Cam Smith is most likely going to be his replacement. I don't think he's going to be an elite cornerback right out the gate, but I do think that he will be pretty solid if he has to fill the shoes of Jalen Ramsey this season. Another injury. This was really devastating, man. If you thought Jalen Ramsey going down was scary, Bengals fans, right now they are biting their nails because Joe Burrow got injured with the calf injury. And the way he got injured was really, really, really devastating to watch if you're a Bengals fan. And I'm not trying to say that to over dramatize this, but if you go and you watch the injury video on YouTube and Twitter or Instagram, it's out there. Joe Burrow, he's rolling outside the pocket, trying to make a play, and then all of a sudden, he ends up hopping on one leg, and then he goes down to the ground. And I'm just like, no, not Joe Burrow, not Joe. And not just is this a bad injury for the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of them going into this season with Super Bowl aspirations, but Joe Burrow is about to get paid. Now, I do expect, despite how this injury plays out, for Joe Burrow to still get all the money that he's asking for. But for Bengals fans, you're hoping and you're praying to God and you got your fingers crossed that Joe Burrow isn't going to miss a lot of time with this injury. Now, the news that we got about this is, according to Ian Rappaport, Bengals coach Zach Taylor tells reporters that Joe Burrow suffered a calf strain, which is much better news than several alternatives have to imagine. This takes him off the field for the preseason, to be decided on the time frame. Now, despite this coming out, they still are going to do further examinations of the calf injury, and they're going to see how long is it going to take for Joe Burrow to return. They didn't say it was an Achilles injury, which is the fear that Bengals fans have about Joe Burrow going down. Is Achilles injury going to end his season? But it looks like right now, the reports coming out is just that this is a calf injury. It's a calf strain. So hopefully Joe Burrow isn't going to go down with a major injury that sidelines him for any time throughout the regular season. Hopefully he can bounce back from this. There still hasn't really been any updates as far up to this moment about Joe Burrow's injury. Is this going to be an injury that is going to sideline him for a couple weeks, months? We don't really know about that. At this moment, the only information that we have is that Ian Rappaport is reporting that Zach Taylor is telling everybody that this is a calf strain. And earlier, before I started recording, the updates were that it was a calf injury. We didn't know what kind of calf injury it was and how severe it was. So now they're saying that this is a calf strain. I looked up how long it takes to recover from a calf injury, and if this is truly a calf strain, Joe Burrow should without a doubt be ready come week 1 of the regular season. But if this is a Achilles injury, which is the worst fear for Cincinnati fans, then you probably won't have him at all, which is going to be a really big bummer for me because I had the Bengals as my Super Bowl pick. I know I'm not supposed to be giving out my record predictions yet, but the Bengals were my selection to win it all this year. And we also got a segment about them on today's episode. So we're going to hope for the best when it comes to Joe Burrow's injury. They say right now it's just a calf strain. Let's hope it's that, or maybe something a little bit better and anything worse that's going to force Joe Burrow to have to miss significant time this season.